Will the class of 2017 please be seated? Hi, everybody. I'm Carol Becker, Dean of the School of the Arts. Thrilled to be here today. We have our very prestigious crew with me, the chairs of our programs, our guest speaker, Mel Chin, and we have the families of all of you. And I'm going to begin right now. I want to welcome all of you, graduates, parents, friends, faculty, and staff, and of course, our graduation speaker, the fabulous visionary Mel Chin. I want to thank also all of you who are out in that blazing sun today through graduation with your tambourines. So the School of the Arts was really well represented. We have to compete with all those enormous schools like engineering who have their big hammers, inflatable hammers. So we were loud and we were present, and thank you for that. It's a really great experiment and a true leap of faith to come to art school. Trusting above all else in the importance of one's own imagination and its power to transform the world, and believing that time spent at Columbia University will be essential to one's process as a creative person and to one's ability to navigate the worlds of visual art, sound, theater, writing, and film. So let's first congratulate the class of 2017 for their boundless courage, originality, boldness, and conviction. They have worked hard and achieved so much already. So congratulations. The graduating class this year is comprised of students from most states in the United States and from 41 other countries. We cherish very much this national and global breadth that so reflects the spirit of the 21st century and enriches the education of us all. Students learn so much from each other and create working partnerships that can last a lifetime. And I know that many of you have experienced this. We've immersed ourselves, we, the faculty, the staff, other students, in the work of the class of 2017, and we've gotten to know and admire all of you through your creative process. The School of the Arts is stronger and more luminous for your time with us and for what I hope will be an ongoing relationship to Columbia University School of the Arts in the years to come. Because we have bonded with you as students and fellow artists and colleagues, we are very sad to see you go, but we are also very joyful. We're confident that we have prepared you well to enter and to succeed in your various professions and to push the boundaries of these forms, inventing new ones along the way. In the last weeks, all the programs of the school have been enlivened by end-of-the-year shows, exhibitions, and publications. We thank you for your brilliantly directed, acted, conceptualized, managed, and produced Columbia New Plays Festival, the Directors and Actors Thesis Productions. We have marveled at the beautifully written and designed Writer's Thesis Anthology with selections from every second-year MFA writing student. And of course, we thank you for the monumental Visual Arts and Sound Arts Student Thesis Exhibition held for the very first time in our beautiful new Renzo Piano design Lenfest Center for the Arts, the inaugural event of that building. We witnessed an astounding week of new short films, screenplays, and television writing by our incredibly accomplished filmmakers at Lincoln Center, the Lenfest Center for the Arts, and the Directors Guild of America. And each year at graduation, I spend a good deal of time reveling in the accomplishments of our alumni from the year that has passed. It is very deliberate on my part to give you and your families confidence that your departure from the school is really only the beginning of many incredible and great things to come. So let's begin with this year's list. Guggenheim's. 6 School of the Arts alumni received Guggenheim Fellowships this year. Gregory Pardlo and Claudia Rankine, Brian Siebert, Antonio Mendez Esparza, Rogelio Martinez, and Lee Adari all received Guggenheims. It's quite amazing. In film, 25 Columbia alumni, including writers, directors, producers, cinematographers, and advisors, were showcased at the Slamdance and Sundance Film Festivals. Notably, alumna Francisco Alegria, who was accepted to the Sundance Screenwriters Lab, and her amazing film, And the Whole Sky Fit in the Dead Cow's Eye, written and directed by Alegria and produced by Birgit Gernbach, won the festival's International Jury Prize for Best Short. Elizabeth Wood sold her first feature, White Girl, to Netflix and FilmRise after its world premiere at Sundance. 12 films by Columbia students, alumni, and faculty screened at this year's Toronto International Film Festival. A total of 23 Columbia filmmakers were involved in the making of the selected 4 features and 4 shorts. The Tribeca Film Festival included 34 School of the Arts affiliated filmmakers across 9 films, including features, narratives, documentaries, and shorts. At this year's Academy Awards, Moonlight, which in addition to winning Best Picture, took home awards for Best Supporting Actor and Best Adapted Screenplay, was co-produced by alumna Veronica Nickel. Moonlight also won the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture, Drama, the Critics' Choice Movie Award, Best Acting, the Screen, on and on. Outstanding performance by a male actor in a supporting role, the Writers Guild Award, everything. As well as numerous other awards from the NAACP, New York Film Critics, Gotham Independent, and more. I'm telling you all this so that this is what you have to live up to, but I know that you will. Alumni Phil Johnston was an Oscar winner for Best Animated Feature Film, Zootopia. He was also nominated for an Annie Award, honoring achievement in animated films. Nocturne in Black, a film program thesis written and directed by Jimmy Carouse and produced by Felicia Hunter, won a Gold Award in the narrative category at the Student Academy Awards. Super difficult thing to achieve. Film program alumni Laura Riccardi and Moira Demos took home 4 awards for the Netflix documentary series Making a Murderer at the 68th Annual Emmy Awards. The series won 4 awards, including Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Series. Film alumni have also taken their talents to the stage. Sarna Lapine directed Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine Pulitzer Prize-winning Sunday in the Park with George. Pulitzer Prize-winning directing alumnus Ayad Akhtar received an Arts and Letters Award in Literature from the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and his new play, Junk, will open on Broadway this fall. So people are crossing over form and disciplines, and they're being amazingly successful. In film and media studies, a number of MA and film and media studies students will continue their studies at the PhD level. They're getting an MA with us, and they're going on in the fall. Alejandra Rosenberg in Spanish and Portuguese at New York University. Yi Yang Hu will begin a PhD in Asian languages and culture at UCLA. Nick Blomberg will begin his PhD at Ohio State. Joseph Wolford in media studies at Indiana University. Jinyi Zhao and Brian Alessandra Gentry will present papers at the Women and Silent Screen Conference in Shanghai. And Gentry will also begin her PhD in Cultural Studies, Comparative Literature at the University of Minnesota in the fall. In theater, Tony Awards, Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, directed by theater directing alumna Rachel Chavkin, was nominated for 12 Tony Awards, including Best Direction of a Musical. In the 2016 season, theater management and producing alumna Barbara Whitman received a Tony Award for Best Play for The Humans. It was her 3rd Tony in 3 years. Not bad. Not bad. In stage management, Kate Coesdale was the stage manager for the revival of Sunday in the Park with George. Caroline Waters was stage manager for Cirque du Soleil in Asia and Europe. Garrett Rollins, assistant stage manager on the Berkeley Repertory Theater production of the new musical of Monsoon Wedding, which has a script by the original screenwriter, also our alumna, Sabina Darwin. Kate Dial was assistant stage manager on the Roundabout Theater production of Holiday Inn. Zheng Xiaozhang was stage manager with Disney Theatricals for the Shanghai production of The Lion King, and Janelle Casso was stage manager on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Clarence Coe, a School of the Arts Theater Program alumnus and current manager of academic administration. I think you all know him for the writing program. Received a Whiting Award, one of the most prestigious awards for emerging writers for his work as a playwright. And House of Cards. House of Cards, created by theater Bo Williman, was nominated for 13 Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Drama Series. Alex Sobler wrote, Rory McGregor directed, and Georgiana Nottinger produced The Great Divide, winner of the Canadian Jewish Playwriting Award. Paula Lazaro new play, Tell Hector I Miss Him, had its world premiere at the Atlantic Theatre Company in January. The play was developed during Lazaro's time at the Atlantic's Tau Playwright in Residence program. Scott Abersold is currently directing The View Upstairs by Max Vernon. Our alumni are everywhere in this show, produced by Jenny Answorth, stage managed by Elizabeth Ann Goodman, assistant directed by Peter Petkovich. Emily Cosimer is the general manager. Director Marcus Potter will be the new associate artistic director for Theater Aspen. He recently directed the New York premiere of Church and State. Erwin Mass directed Poison at the Theater Rose Beckett Theater. Jocelyn Bio was nominated for a Lucille Lortel Award for Outstanding Featured Actress for her performance in Everybody. So that's theater. Visual arts. We're getting through my list. But I hope you're impressed with all of yourselves. Visual arts, 9 School of the Arts artists are featured at the Whitney Biennial this year. Among them are graduate alumni Dana Schutz, Noah Fisher, Tommy Hartung, Kirsten Brach, Debo Ehlers, Samara Golden, undergraduate alumnus A.J. Kurian, as well as Lee Ladari and professors Eliza Nissenbaum and John Kessler. Among other publications, alumna Rona Yefman published her monograph, Let It Bleed. Professor Thomas Roma founded SPQR Editions, launched a series of 5 photographic monographs featuring 4 School of the Arts alumni, Stephen Hilger, Yoav Horish, Kai McBride, and Dennis Santella. Visual art professor Rirkrit Chervenika, along with Mellon visiting artist Joan Jonas and alumna Rachel Rose, participated in Japan's first Okayama Art Summit. The Brick Biennale, Volume 2, Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights edition, featured works of alumni Ilana Harris-Babu and Kambui Olujimi. And Kambui also had a solo exhibition at the Q Foundation. Alumna Megan Foster presented her 3rd solo exhibition, Illuminating, at the Black and White Gallery. Alumnus David Brooks' solo exhibition, Continuous Service, Altered Daily, was on view at the Aldrich Contemporary Art Museum. Dineo Sheshi Bopape was one of 4 recipients of the Sharjah Biennale Prize. Current student Yvonne Ford was awarded the 2017 Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship, awarded in recognition of New Americans' contribution to U.S. society, culture, and academics. I don't usually mention contemporary students when I do my list, but I thought that was so special this year. A recognition of how much we need and want international students in our midst and how much they bring to American society. And following many shows this year, faculty member Sanford Biggers won what is one of the most prestigious awards in the visual art world, and that's the Rome Prize. Sound Arts is our newest program. Geronimo Mercado is contracted to produce Victrolean Man. Our 2 first-year students, Lemon Guo and Ethan Edwards, received grants to research and present their work in China and Japan. This program has just begun and already is being very successful. In writing, Claudia Rankine received the 2016 MacArthur Fellows Grant. Rankine was also awarded the 2016 Rebecca Johnson Bobbitt National Prize for Poetry, our alumna. David Means was selected for the 2016 Man Booker Longlist for his debut novel, Histopia. Writing program alumna and adjunct professor Mia Alvar was awarded the 2016 Kafka Prize for her debut story collection In the Country. And Grey Wolf Press published Afterland by alumna May Der Wang. Emma Klein. Emma Klein's debut, Emma Klein, who graduated in 2013, had a debut novel called The Girls, which many of you might have heard of. It was named a top 2016 book by numerous publications, including Esquire, the Financial Times, Harper's Bazaar. Klein was also named as a finalist for the 2017 LA Times Book Prize, along with alumna Indra Novi and Rebecca Schiff. School of the Arts alumna and staff member Alicia Maria Mayer, and current student Amanda Lee Coe have been awarded 2016 Penn Helm Translation Grants. And alumna Crystal Hana Kim won a Penn Grant Dow Short Story Prize for Emerging Writers. So School of the Arts alumni are everywhere successful. They do well in the world because they were fabulous to begin with. I have to give you all that. And because they are even better after their time with us and with our amazing faculty. They are well prepared to enter the world. In a short time, you, the class of 2017, will become part of this illustrious alumni group. As you leave today as alumni of the school, please remember to stay in touch. Except for your friends and families, no one will ever be as consistently proud of you and excited about your achievements as will we. Speaking of families, let's acknowledge those without whom many of you would never have been able to complete this most essential part of your development as artists. So let's have the families and friends of all of our graduates please stand so we can thank them for everything they've done. We're really so happy to have all of you with us today, and we have an overflow room, and some people are in that room. We're just thrilled that all of these families and friends could be here. It's such a big day. It's such a momentous day. Now, I just want to take a moment to thank our faculty. Honestly, they're an extraordinary group of people. I've never known a faculty as devoted as this faculty, but also as accomplished as this faculty. All of the faculty are working artists or writers, intellectuals. They're all working in whatever form they've studied themselves. They're working in so many forms, and they're so busy, but nonetheless, they immerse themselves and have immersed themselves in the work of all of you. They've entered into your imaginations as if those imaginations were their own and tried to help you to achieve the most wonderful work that you could produce. So in the past 8 years, our faculty have been acknowledged for being extraordinary faculty. They've won the Presidential Outstanding Teaching Award 5 times, and that's really more than any other school in all of Columbia has won that award, including the really large schools like the medical school or the law school. Our faculty have enormous careers, and were I to enumerate their accomplishments, we'd really be here all day. And yet, they are remarkably present, and they're remarkably devoted to their students. I'm going to name only very few of their achievements just to give the families who might not know just a sense. So this year we had 2 Pulitzer Prizes and a Man Booker Award. Not bad. Associate Professor Hilton Als was awarded the 2017 Pulitzer Prize in Criticism for his New Yorker magazine theater coverage. Associate Professor Lynn Nottage plays Sweat, received many awards and honors this year, including the Pulitzer Prize in Drama, and making her the first woman to win 2 Pulitzer Prizes in this category. On Monday, the Pulitzer Prizes are going to be given out, so this is the first time the School of the Arts will have 2 winners. It's pretty great. Writing professor Richard Ford was awarded the 2016 Princess of Asturias Award for Literature. Poet Richard Howard, Emeritus, received the Paris Review's 2017 Hadada Prize for a lifetime contribution to literature. And Paul Beatty, who is assistant professor in writing, was the first American author to win the extremely prestigious Man Booker Award for his novel, The Sellout. Professor Ira Deutschman was awarded the first annual Spotlight Life Achievement Award for his outstanding contribution to the distribution and exhibition of independent film. Visual art faculty member, Visual art faculty member Sarah Z is one of 4 artists featured in the long-awaited New York public infrastructure project, the Second Avenue Subway, and her installation is on view at the 96th Street Station, in case you want to go look at something fabulous. Now, I could go on, but let's ask the faculty now to stand up and be acknowledged by you, the students, and their colleagues. So you know how people always say that expression, it takes a village? Well, to pull off graduation, it takes more than a village. It takes our entire staff, pretty much. So first I want to thank everyone who's worked so hard. It's really a team effort, and it's really a great effort of love. I think you know that when you see how excited they are for all of you. The core commencement team from the Office of Student Affairs, Layla Mayer is Associate Dean of Students and Alumni Affairs. Her team, Jeffrey James Keynes, Darren Molina. I want to thank Christina Rump, Rich Dykman, Julie Rossi, Kenny Wong, the Dean's Office. The Dean's Office, my entire team, Roberta Albert, the development team, everyone's worked. Brenna St. George Jones and Taylor Riccio from Miller Theater, Peter Vaughn. And Ryan Keller and Allison Simone are our theater students in the stage management concentration, and they really helped produce this event today. So I really thank them. We have an Interdisciplinary Arts Council, and I'm going to read off the names of the leaders of that. They really are an amazing group that have given so much time to thinking of events, to bring all the programs together, which is something that the students always want. They want to meet each other. It's a difficult thing to do because you're all working so hard in your disciplines, but they are determined. So Irene Plax, Christopher Maxwell, Rory McGregor, Catherine Kosiba, Apurva Charan. Are you here today? How many of you are here today? If you are, please stand up. I want to thank the directors of academic administration. You students, you all know how hard they work for you. Hannah Sifu in film. We have Lauren in theater. Carrie in visual arts. Clarence Koo in writing. And of course, I have to acknowledge my partner in so much of this, Dean of Academic Administration, Jana Wright, for her brilliance and devotion to the school. I also want to thank the undergraduate jazz ensemble who are playing when you came in and will be playing when you leave. They're undergraduates, they're amazing musicians. And I thank all the volunteers, the numerous volunteers who helped make today work. So let me begin. I'm going to introduce to you our speaker for today, Mel Chin, very briefly. It was a brilliant choice on our part to invite Mel Chin. He is a renowned artist. One might call him a conceptual artist, but he works in so many forms. He also works in what has become very well known in the visual art world as social practice, although he was working in these methodologies way before that name had been coined or had become so dominant in the visual art world. His work begins with ideas, and it often bridges art and science and environmental issues. And although his projects can be humorous, because he's humorous, he's quite seriously concerned with those urgent social issues that weigh on our contemporary consciousness: climate change, injustice related to toxic environments, the fate of the planet and society, and social inequity. And his projects engage social issues such as those of revival fields that he started in 1989. He was then and still is a pioneer in the field of what's called green remediation, the use of plants to remove toxic heavy metals from the soil. His concern for environments such as New Orleans, the Sahara, troubled areas in the US often have a profound ecological bent, bridging natural and social ecology to address key health and environmental concerns that affect people's daily lives. Ahead of his time and consistently committed to activism, Mel Chin's work is exemplary of the role that art can play in society, producing work across form, language, and imagery to present the state of the world, desperate for transformation. Art can change people's consciousness and be a powerful force leading to a truly more equitable future. Mel Chin has received numerous awards from the National Endowment for the Arts, from Art Matters, from Creative Capital, the Rockefeller and Tiffany Foundations, among many others. He is one of the most interesting artists working today, and he will have, lucky for New York, a major retrospective of his work at the Queens Museum, but in multiple locations next year, and then he will return and be with us as a visiting artist at the School of the Arts. So we're thrilled to have Mel Chin as our 2017 graduation speaker, so let's welcome him.
I'm not blind in one eye. I just have this bad double vision. And I got to block it out sometimes. I'm deeply honored to address you today. I've emerged from an undrained swamp where I've made unquestionable progress. At the same time, I've been met with unspeakable violence. Sharing my thoughts with you as new colleagues is an opportunity to be personally uplifted by anticipation of new conversations that will diversify and expand the creative practices we have chosen. I know this is kind of one way right now, but I'm expectant of future convos with you, your art, and I am beholden to you and this institution for this special occasion. In the past, I have been submerged with scientists and artists to test the rising waters of our oceans. Driven by the forlorn message of a king of ice, whose lamentations deserve a global stage. Scripts were prepared, funds were raised, and promotions imagined, pulling toward progressive reactions from the Climate Change Conference in Paris. Cruise shirts were designed that forecast an unprecedented triangulation. Recruitment was bilingual, and a riotous run over cobblestones and landmarks was fully negotiated. The talent was assembled through careful auditions to eventually point toward a platform where individual behavior and modification would be crucial. Then, a horrific attack occurred on the evening before the production was to begin. A few days later, still stunned, we suited up to stand our ground in solidarity with a country in mourning. But film production stopped, with permits pulled, funds and support evaporated in a state of national emergency. I rescripted, extracted from personal savings, with a man and his cam, a man with a van, an Inuit and his sled, and shot guerrilla style, location to location, to get what we could into the can. This is the result.
Nunakha tokusuta hinnarelimik nappaqamaarfua. Uanga tamatuminga upparnakha hiuhunga. Ukiuni tuusintilinni inooriawitta addangoriartornera annertorfua. Anorreit тассангаиннахаа таккуккаюккеққарфуи икиортиссарфеорлуга нипаалунгитсарруага аатта каппиагунгитсарруага аатта тоқуссутиангитсарруиппут налеққуккартуаррамагуут Taimattumi iddoqarussi erearnartua orneqqaaria tassatakuhinnariaqarakku uatsinnut humniutai hunaunerrut taukkualu ilissinnut piuggaaviartu nunarraatta hermerriangata aukkiartornera imavissiit tatsittu allangorteqqagai имависсиит хаппай киссаккиарторриnnartut илисси упернартарни qarrutsinерриангоррамагут ааваккуллу киаппаггуаратталеқалуги укиораангассилу аккортуорфуармит анерарруаратталеқалуги укиаккуллу аперруаратталеқалуги исситтортассааху париси исситтортассааху крибаатси паитингими аутта паарутсими жакартами аатта нью-йоркими риуми аатта сантьягоми тайлассими аатта такаарими мумпаарими аатта миамими хаитими аатта хелсинкими исситтортассааюаррамао ила иддит илиhamаат хеорлу тассангаакку исситтупиунерутеқиу
I offered my uncertain crew, the weeping producer, the Inuit hunters shocked by the brutality of the attack, this rationale to continue. When terrorism and violence does what it does, the world loses. But if we don't do what we do, the world will lose even more. 30 years ago was my first speaking engagement in New York City. I was asked by the New School of Social Research to elaborate on my installation, The Operation of the Sun Through the Cult of the Hand. It detailed my sculptural presentation of mythic, scientific, and alchemic origins of the world, material, and form. I wasn't intimidated by the school of commies. I was terrified, a ball of nervous apprehension. Because the grads of philosophy and psychology had invited me, not the art school. I knew one school would know I really didn't know what I was talking about, and the other would definitely detect my early childhood trauma. So I made an axe. The handle was cut from construction lumber, the business end out of a book. Pages were waxed shut and sharpened with my lecture notes buried within. I wrapped it in newspaper, bought a six-pack of beer, and went to the talk. I came into a room full of men smoking pipes. I placed my package and six-pack down and began to drink one beer after another. By the third beer, I was one red-faced, alcohol-intolerant Asian dude. But I was still silent. Then a grad student from psychology reminded me, "Mr. Chin, it is time to speak." I jerked up, ripped off the newspaper, brandished the sculpture, and shouted, "This is an axe!" Another grad student shouted back in horror, "What the fuck are you going to do?" I did what I planned to do. I wheeled around and slammed that wannabe axe into the blackboard, crushing its waxy head, releasing my notes that fluttered to the floor. The lecture was a success. I was drunk, and they were terrified. I might have even been a bit of a bully when a pipe smoker wanted to know about my work in reference to Plato's cave. I slurred a response. "I don't want to talk about no damn shadows." And that was it. Franz Kafka noted the book as an axe for the frozen sea within us. And his description challenges the arrogant aspects of our ego to defrost. But there's more to it. At the same time, I was influenced by Elaine Scarry's book, The Body in Pain. She had isolated a line from Homer, who spoke of the arrow that struck Achilles' heel being freighted with dark pain. Now that's an amazing construction. The poet has imbued the weight of fear of an intense sensation onto an inanimate object, feathered shaft of bronze and wood. My actions are guided by the poets. They teach me to forge and enfold meaning, essence, and significance into a work of art. The axe itself was a lecture. Time to load up your performances, your words, your films, your painting, your objects with significant meaning to fracture the fake responses and extract the questions. Heed James Baldwin's wise words. The purpose of art is to lay bare the questions that have been hidden by the answers. Just a few more things to show and tell. Here's a piece called The End of the World as We Have Never Known It. It's a retablo-looking thing on tin that illustrates not a heavenly light, but the rain of MX missiles, peacekeepers incinerating the earth. And this piece, Enlightenment for Thomas of Coventry. Hold up. One more pop quiz before we let you go. Who was Thomas of Coventry? Well, you can't go. All right, that's okay. Thomas of Coventry is Peeping Tom. I love the story of Lady Godiva and her performance activism, challenging her husband to reduce the tax burden on our people. Or she was going to ride bare-ass naked through the streets on a white horse on their behalf. And then she bad-assedly did it. The story goes that she had so much street credibility that no one cast eyes upon her. All turned their heads and looked away except for Thomas, who sneaks a peek. Kaboom! He gets blinded. I hate that part. So this work is dedicated to Thomas and his optical orgasm. Both works refer to Scarry's parallel worlds of pain and imagination. Pain in the form of torture and war unmakes the world with its inhumane actions that strip away the capacity for expression, and mass destruction of life in war is complicit in the eradication of language. Imagination, the drive of an object floating in the mind, desperate for conjugation with a verb, is essential for the resurrection of language, and thus part of remaking the world. Remember, anything that limits your capacity to do what you do needs to take its own damn horse out of this town. I intended to wax on a little bit about the presidential election being perceived as a loss, a victory for polarization, and the rise of an alternative United States. To me, though, the election revealed the America that is. But more about his 100+ days, ain't nobody got time for that. Instead, I'm going to talk about debt. I could see some of y'all squirming. But the debt I speak of is one that Derrida reflected upon near his own end, his debt to the departed. Like Derrida, we all have those people who have inspired or compelled us in our core mission. It is a debt that we should gratefully carry, offer continual repayment through creative endeavors. We can forever rhapsodize, Latinize about the longevity of the arts, but it's also about moments, not the ones that you seize, but the ones you create for others and the ones created by others for you. So at this moment, how y'all feel about recycling and reuse? Y'all okay with that? Okay, that's good. So I offer some of the following commencement thoughts from 2 years ago. They were witnessed by my friend and assistant artist, Karina Mill, whose life was taken from us a few months ago by a random act of violence. Judith Butler, when utilizing Derrida, noted, the act of mourning thus becomes a continued way of speaking to the other who is gone. It would do me so much good to revisit just some of those words and to imagine her for a moment to be present with us today. Among others, I owe for their lives, their art, their attitude that has enriched me. I'm sorry that these meditations begin with, I'm sorry. I have to apologize. At my age, I probably insulted someone, his or her significant other, or his or her art at some time in my lifetime. That last insult could be the worst because I'm sure that artist is on the brink of becoming the most celebrated and collected in his generation. I'm worried. I'm sorry can also mean I'm contrite about some selfish action, or in a worst case scenario, I might have harmed someone physically, or I'm just simply pathetic. You have nothing to worry about. Not yet. You're too busy with your life to fulfill a commitment for that group because the cat or the boyfriend, girlfriend, they friend needed you more on that weekend, or you couldn't make it to class because you were too compromised from the party the night before. But you're forgiven, obviously, because you made it here. You're here in your gowns, covering all your ink, piercings, along with your extensions of family and hair. I found out through the internet that the internet was invented during my boom generation. It has given you access to so many likable and unlikable faces that don't even look like books, giving you all the power to broadcast opinion and comment spiced with snark, give you the means to share your GPS coordinates from the window to the wall, to the club, to the bathroom stall, gigabyting selfies and ways to fill residual moments with gossip, mean bird games, Snapchatty, Instagrammy tweets of celebrity skin and skank, all juxtaposed next to wishful posturing and ad infotainment. The truth and trivia of science and dark web intrigue have saturated our cellular sensibilities, challenging our capacity for empathy. Maybe this is just my reaction to an awful realization. I am truly sorry for what our generation has done. Yes, we created Earth Day. Then my generation encouraged us to consume so much, drive so fast and furiously away from awareness, from consequences, that we have started to wear out an entire atmosphere, while trash tossing enough to form floating continents of plastic, flotsam and jetsam of mutated microplastic cracking organisms, unleashing hydrocarbon toxins hostile to life so dependent on the fragile chemistries of our massive oceans. We have taken so much. We leave you with something less of a world than was given to us. We expanded a disparity that increased the national debt, CEO bonuses and salaries, and our waistline to out of control proportions. We left neurotoxic environments of our cities for children to absorb that undid comprehension and capacity before they even had a chance to start. And that we still live under gangster austerity governance to justify flooding Flint, Michigan with tap water poison. We failed to listen, to learn the language of the unheard that justly proclaimed, then as now, Black Lives Matter. Yet we have not, in my time, mustered the adequate comprehension to take that complaint seriously enough to collectively end systemic racism. There are wounds and injustices, generation upon generations old, that scar without healing, that must stop. If not, a justified revolution of riot will consume all that matters. So I'm not happy with the failures of my generation. But for this moment, I'm here, hopeful because of you. As you leave with your diplomas, you enter a world where the deadlines will be harsher than the ones you aced, and the grading system tougher than pass-fail. There will be some thoughtful, honest critiques out there for the work you'll make, but expect to go through a gauntlet of attacks, even character assassination, for the progressive ideas you will express. The new life courses will be filled with commitments and challenges you didn't sign up for, yet there'll be courses that actually matter. The making of art contains qualities that unconditionally demand a connection with others to complete the creative act. How you navigate your life within a community could chart its way for its preservation. Your inner explorations matter because they chart the way out of meaningless pathologies. You are the creator of new opportunities because you employ the language of not yet spoken, colors not yet combined, objects not yet formed, meaningful actions not yet taken, content being newly configured. Okay, I started with apologies, but this is an opportunity for me to begin to thank you in advance for the dreams that you will fulfill, for creating forms that defy the grave status of the world. Okay, so now, let me toast you. Hold up. Man, I'm sorry. There's not enough cups, so I'll just symbolically take some myself. All right, let's see how this works. Do this, right? Do this. Let me toast you first. All right. Let me toast you. Authority does what it does to embed and entrap conformity in the established order, while you have the capacity to discover the nuances of culture around you and to convey them in ways essential to our evolution. Thank you for your brooding presence, your ebullient persona, your investigations, your excavations, your applications, your constructions and deconstructions, your open minds, your steel-like wills, your defiance, your confidence, your resistance. Yes. We got one more. We got one more page here. What the hell? I'm not done yet. God dang it. Young man, where's my last page? I'm not done. Hold up. Where is Gavin?
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to drink.
Now just make it up. Just make it up.
Okay, we got one more page. Got one more. How y'all feeling? All right? That's what I want to hear. Yeah, we're going to get done. You all right? Let's hear it again. We're not done. I'm not going to. Oh, yeah, it fell down. All right, here it is. Thank you for that future world where intolerance is no longer tolerated. Thank you for your future vision that sees through the scams of sentimentality. May the intensity of your passion and rigor of your self-criticism burn a fierce illumination that can't be bought and will burn clear through any dark worldview. May you finesse the aesthetics of your existence, meet the demands you place on it, and reanimate a sense of wonder as to what a human being can create. May the quiet moments that you have give you the time and the grace for an explosive expression, one that vaporizes the final word, proclaiming the end of art, and reveals a new world that really matters for your generation and the next. I toast you. That's it.
You don't need to clean it up. All right. Only artists can do this, you know? Bring the house down. Just bring the house down. Thank you so much. I felt like you were channeling Allen Ginsberg. I felt like we were back in Howl, you know, like really gritty and really, wow, okay. So, we're almost there. Now we have, serious part, the recognition of graduates, very big moment, and the chairs of each program, with the assistance of the directors of academic administration, will present the degrees. And it will be in this order. It will be Maureen Ryan in film, assisted by Sarah Mason. Christian Parker in theater, assisted by Lauren Almer. Matthew Buckingham, visual arts and sound arts, with Carrie Gundersdorf. And Timothy Donnelly in writing with Bill Wadsworth. So we will start with Maureen.
Hold on. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to the graduates, families, and friends. This is my second year as chair, and so it's my second commencement speech. It's definitely not my forte, and last year it was a bit nerve-wracking, but I survived it and I'm here again. But this time, instead of dread, I feel grateful and honored that I'm allowed to share a few thoughts on this momentous occasion of your graduation. So as I thought about what to say this year, I kept going back to a quote I read from the filmmaker Steven Soderbergh, a man who embodies the very essence of what it means to be a creative collaborator as a writer, director, and producer, all of the skills that we teach at the film program. Several years ago, Mr. Soderbergh commented on what would have happened if the film studios had been in charge of the preparation for the city of New Orleans ahead of Hurricane Katrina. And I quote, "These people, filmmakers, excel at problem solving. That's 99% of the job. I look at Hurricane Katrina, and I think if 4 days before landfall, you had given the movie studios autonomy and 1/100th of a billions of dollars that was spent by the government on that disaster, and told them, lock this place down and get everyone taken care of, we wouldn't be using that disaster as what not to do. A big movie involves clothing, feeding, and moving thousands of people around the world on a tight schedule. Problems are solved creatively, as efficiently, within a budget, or your ass is out of work." Indeed, that describes the essence of filmmaking, creative collaboration. And that is what your MFA degree represents. Everyone thinks that the MBA, the JD, or the MD degrees are the practical ones, but they've got nothing compared to what you have in your hands today and what you have all learned over the years in your programs at the School of the Arts. These are the skills that enable you to accomplish just about anything in life, and there is a power that you now embody that comes from your study and experiences over the last few years. So I thought I'd pick a few of my favorite lessons that we teach at the MFA film program, the ones that they don't teach you at those other schools, the ones that really can change the world. Number one, do what you love. I'll start first with a photo from a number of years ago. That's me dressed in a Victorian costume on the set of my first feature documentary, Wisconsin Death Trip. In the close-up, you can see the Radio Shack walkie-talkie strapped to the waistband of my 19th century dress. I was the producer, the AD, the PA, and the extra. It was a big deal, my first feature doc, a very ambitious film with a really talented director, and we didn't have nearly enough money for the film, and so consequently, the entire crew had to be enrolled as extras in the film. Even the director, James Marsh, has a cameo, along with the gaffer, key grip, costume designer, exec producer, and me. About 5 minutes after this photo was taken, I was lying down in the mud in an animal pen with crew members throwing potatoes at me as some kind of crazy recreation we were doing that day. And the irony of a producer being pelted by the crew with hard, starchy vegetables was not lost on the director or myself. But hey, we couldn't ask anybody else to do it, and I really didn't care. We were making our movie. By the way, that scene never made it into the final cut. Yes, I'm glad you got that. But I keep this photo to remind me of the lengths we go to when we do what we love and the satisfaction we get from it. Leading a life of deeply fulfilling work is a joyful and powerful way to live. And even if you don't get to do it all the time, it gives your life a direction and purpose that would not have happened if you didn't take the path you are on today. Number two, the power of story. All of the projects I've ever produced start with a writer or a director telling me a story. Whether in a script form or listening to a pitch over a cup of coffee, that's how it begins. In fact, Wisconsin Death Trip started that way. In answer to my question to James, "What are you working on now?" he half whispered this crazy-ass idea of turning a book of 19th century photographs into a feature-length film. It intrigued me, excited me, and 9 months later, we were on the set of some historic house in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin making that film. What begins with a single conversation, a well-told story, inspires hundreds of people to come together to create something that never existed before. It starts with a story, and then you add vision, persuasion, salesmanship, inspiration, leadership, and humility, all the things you have learned at Columbia, to create something bigger than oneself. It's profound and awesome, and for me, that process is the art. And those skills are transferable. Number three, Creative collaboration can change the world. This is a still frame from this year's Columbia University Film Festival trailer. It's emblematic of what goes on behind the camera. Although a relatively small crew, that sea of humanity is what it takes to create a few seconds of footage, a single setup. It's pretty crazy. All of those people concentrating on making that one moment in film until they work together to create the next and the next. Every film takes a village of committed and creative individuals who work together to birth that idea and to add to that vision. And that's what separates filmmakers from so many other art forms. It's hundreds of meetings, sometimes across many time zones, thousands of conversations, gazillions emails, calls, and text. It's an artful and practical process, and it connects people and creates community that gives birth to art. This creative collaboration is what we need now more than ever. As citizens in our global world today, you are uniquely qualified to take on the challenges beyond the film set, off the theater stage, and outside the art studio. The ingenuity, thinking outside the box, stretching past your own limits, reaching for something no one else can see, let alone dream of, is what is needed now. To today's School of the Arts graduates, this is your gift, this is your strength, and this is what separates artists from everyone else. To be an artist, it demands a level of competency and excellence that is unmatched. And after the trial by fire that you have all experienced within the walls of Dodge Hall and across the globe on the various film sets you have led, there is nothing you can't accomplish. This is our superpower. This is our legacy. This is our tribe. We are unbowed and unstoppable, so don't stop. Just go, create, collaborate, and change the world. Because we need you now more than ever. Go out and do what only you can do. And once you do it, let us know so we can be inspired by the magnificence of what you've created through creative collaboration. Thank you. And so now it is my great pleasure to introduce the film program's Director of Academic Administration, Sarah Mason, who will read the names of the 2017 MFA graduates in film.
Thank you, Maureen. We have 2 degree programs graduating, so we're going to start with the film MFA students. Munya Ackle. Jorge Alfaro. Eric Ambrosino. Ilan Amuyal. Fabio Andrade. Suzanne Andrews Correa. Cyril Ares. Adele Benbella. Willie Berliner. Anna Nora Bernstein. Caroline P. Boyd. Jonathan Brandon. Courtney Silman. Micah Coburn. Michael Kraft. Rachel Del Giudice. Carver Dizerens. Christian Tatan Donoso. Matthew Farrell. Anna Marie Fernandez. Elionette Fumbi. Birgit Gernbach. Federica Gianni. Melissa Hernandez. Monsi Jane. Hernan Jimenez. Raylene Jin. Bettina Kaduri. Kyung Min Kim. Delicia Kwang. Antonetta Almat Kuzayanovic. Mickey Gichi Liu. Sheon Muitra. Brittany Nicole Northcross. Timothy O'Connor. Julie O'Leary. Yasna Palada. Renee Petropoulos. Kate Phillips. Michelle Rashnikovsky-Stolnicki. Justine Riedel. Elizabeth Blau Rose. Nayantara Roy. Eric Schumann. George Sikarulidze. Colum Smith. Ish Tapar. Julia Thompson. Abhiraj Trivedi. Eric Unverzat. Juliana Lembiwe. Nick Weiss-Richmond. Karan Williams. Tianchi Dra. Nadia Zoe. Next, we have some graduates from the MA in Film Studies program who actually graduated in February, but these students have come back to process. Ian Adams. Maggie Foley. Catherine Haas. Megan Heatherly. Iam Ho. Thank you. Hanel Lee. Xinyi Zhao.
Hello, everybody. Hello, theater graduates. During my second year as an MFA student at this very same esteemed institution, 20 years ago now, I got a job, then referred to as a DRA position, working in the scene shop. There were two of us. I was a dramaturgy student, she was a playwright. Somehow this pairing seemed appropriate. Mainly, we worked many hours a week in the depths of the now defunct Horace Mann Theater at Teachers College, where almost all of the production work for the theater program was then done. It was a former indoor basketball court, I believe, painted black, and attached to it was a scene shop which was coated in layers of sawdust, paint drippings, soot, and grime of the ages, though I don't think Teachers College has been around quite that long. That I do not now suffer from black lung disease is a small miracle, but I have paid off my student loans, so there's that. Take heart. We were tasked with building and painting sets, dragging huge clunky garbage bins through the dank, chlorine-scented hallways of the basement of Horace Mann, and rigging cabling and hanging lights and sound equipment on a weekly basis on a makeshift grid roughly 20 feet in the air. The latter task leads me to the real subject of my remarks today, fear. Just what everyone wants to talk about on a celebratory day like this, right? Fear. Yes, I am deeply, utterly, profoundly afraid of heights. Anyone who shares this fear knows that it is seemingly innate, lives somewhere in the groin, and is unpredictable, idiosyncratic, and very, very strong. I knew when I accepted this DRA position that climbing ladders and working up in the air would be part of it. I assumed, cheerfully, that being forced to do it all the time would actually help me get over this limb-shaking, palm-sweating, star-seeing, gut-churning fear once and for all. I practically volunteered to start climbing on day one, ready to vanquish this irrational, inconvenient fear that seemed to prevent me from fully enjoying life. Most people don't really picture me climbing rocks or flying down a zip line for good reason. I was not helped by a tall, rickety wooden ladder, a wobbly wooden aluminum scaffolding that we had to put together ourselves every time we needed it, and a floor that seemed to slope in different directions depending on the week. Nonetheless, I was determined to do this work and conquer my fear, and in fact, not even let on, if possible, that I had such a silly, childish affliction. I began to dread going to work pretty much immediately, despite the fervor of my desire to climb that ladder and swing those cables around and reach way over the edge of the scaffolding to hoist a 50-pound speaker up above my head with ease. I simply could not get used to it. It was my job, and I was too proud to beg off the task, so I persisted. but I spent week after week sweating, dizzy, feeling the familiar drop in the belly and pull in the groin, up in the air in the Horace Mann Theater, doing my job, and absolutely certain that I was going to fall to my death simply by having hands too sweaty to hold on to anything. People said to me, the friends that I actually told about this, "Oh, just keep going, you'll get over it. Mind over matter. You're careful, you'll be fine. Nothing to be afraid of. Just face the fear and make it go away." I'm here to tell you, it never did, and that advice is crap. Fear seems to be the defining emotion of our time. I think it's fair to say that wherever you stand on domestic or world politics, the last year has been destabilizing, polarizing, and worrisome at best. It often seems like predicting how our world will look and how our lives will play out even a week from now is folly. We're anxious and we're afraid. Now, add to that rosy situation your bold choice to become artists. I'm speaking, of course, most specifically here to the graduating theater students, but I think this probably applies to everyone graduating today. Being and declaring oneself an artist is terrifying. There is so much to fear: failure, obscurity, fame, poverty, disappointing our families, student loans, relevance, fraudulence, acceptance, rejection, isolation, intimacy, impact, success. I could go on. When we're already asking very necessary and tough questions about how and why to do our work, and what seems to many like a hostile environment defined by deep social divisions, how can we also contend with these nagging personal fears about making our art? And when will these fears go away? The good news is, they won't. That's right, I said good news. I firmly believe, after 20+ years of professional practice and one solid year on top of a ladder in the Horace Mann Theater, that it is our fears that define our relevance, our authenticity, and our pursuit of truth in our art. If we don't stare into the gaping maw of what freaks us out in the world, in our families, in our politics, what will we have to say? If we can't learn to recognize that as artists we are choosing to frame and reframe and dig and interrogate those things in society that make us deeply uncomfortable with the way things are, then we become decorators of culture, not leaders and visionaries to point us toward how things might be. My friend and colleague, Anne Bogart, tells actors to, quote, "move before they're ready," unquote, in order to encourage them to follow through on an impulse and not craft a performance too consciously in their minds before performing a scene and engaging their bodies. It's a way to spark spontaneity in the actor, but more importantly, to get the actor to reveal something of his or herself in the midst of the terrifying circumstances of performing a play in front of people without curating or framing that personal revelation first. We also teach something called the Alexander technique, which for actors basically comes into use as a way to control the fight or flight response on stage, so that actors can appear relaxed and confident to an audience, even as they are roiling and uncertain on the inside. Once an actor steps onto the stage, they must just go, or the play will come to a crashing halt, sacrificing everyone's work on the altar of anxiety. This is a useful metaphor for all of us, I think. We must imagine that every time we show up for whatever it is we do, we are already standing on the stage, and we owe it to ourselves and everyone else we are or will ever be working with to forge ahead. So, I would like you to ignore all of the people who tell you to face your fears in order to vanquish them. It presents a real and constant challenge, which is among the reasons the road you have chosen is not easy, but I sincerely think that the key to making a life in the theater or the arts in general is to stare directly at the fears that could prevent many people from getting out of bed in the morning, much less showing up for a rehearsal or sitting down at the computer or showing up in the office to launch a new production. Grab onto the fear and just do it anyway. It will make you sweat and shake and sometimes think you might lose your lunch, but you've trained. You've already showed up. You're ready, and you can do it. And when you have, you can climb down from the proverbial ladder and be really proud of what you see hanging elegantly in the air above you. And then you'll get nervous and afraid, and you'll climb back up again. I've heard it said that the fear of heights is actually a fear of leaping, not falling. That seems right to me. So be afraid and leap. Congratulations. I am now very happy to welcome and introduce our Director of Academic Administration, Lauren Britt Elmore, who will read the names of our graduates.
Matthew Barbeau. Joseph Battaglia. Inez Braun. Kyle Kadat. Marcelo Carrascosa. Janelle Queso. Nicole Elizabeth Chalice. Shallon Clark. I got you. Gregory Cuellar. Robin Alexander Erickson. Sipe Fun. Stephen Folia. Aeneas Hemphill. Keelan Hunter. Adrian Jackson. Timothy S. Jones II. Paulina Youngsdotter. Brandon Kahn. Aaron Keller. Okay. Catherine Kilburn. On Kim. Yoshiko Kishimoto. Lori Lang. Catherine Leary. Dayung Lee. Abraham Martlet. Rory McGregor. Emily Juliet Murphy. Cassandra Ezinedima Nuoka. Adrian Paquin. Sunhae Park. Becca Plunkett. Brett Radke. Georgina Ratnatunga. Ariel Rodriguez. Hallie Seekoff. Alex Sobler. Bring it. Max Abraham Sterling. What do you want your banana? Oh, I got it. Ellen Elizabeth Stevis. Callan Stout. No. Fine. Matt Tricano. Clarice Van Cott. Daniel Vaughn. Alexandra Viteri Arturo. Okay, sorry. Jillian Bree Walker. Scott Ray. Joan Wyatt. And last but not least, Rachel Ann Zucker.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. It's late in the day or early in the evening. The last moments of light. Edges are disappearing and colors are dimming. You let go of the day. It is the end of August, or perhaps the second day of September. The air is wet, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Your thoughts turn to the near future. You've just started a journey. Classes will begin on the other side of the approaching weekend. Earlier in the day, I met most of you for the first time. Some of you I knew already. We exchanged names and talked and talked. That day at the end of the summer, before your first semester, is the day that I think of as commencement day. The day this began. An awesome moment, literally, for me. A feeling of awe at becoming part of your life at this time in your life. This school commenced in 1754. Whenever you have found its ways mysterious or counterintuitive, I have always reminded you that this is an 18th century institution. The first commencement was held on the 21st of June, 1758, in St. George's Chapel on Beekman Street. 7 men graduated with Bachelor of Arts degrees. Of course, then it was called King's College, the king being the King of England, George II, who granted the royal charter to the college. Classes were suspended when the English colony rebelled. Afterward, in 1784, the college renamed itself Columbia, after the female personification of the so-called New World, Manifest Destiny, and America in particular. It was also called the Mother of Colleges and was given public supervisory power over all institutions of learning in New York. At the time, there were no other institutions of learning in New York. And 3 years later, the college was relieved of these duties. It became private once more and modified its name again, becoming Columbia College in the city of New York. On the day we met, you knew none of this, or all of it, or some. You were just arriving in, had been born in, or were continuing to live in the city of New York, a global capital for creative destruction, racing into the sky, where the same pieces of earth are resold over and over above their original in the form of tall buildings, a cultural capital and market center, a settler colony founded on an ideology of liberal economics and slavery and social tolerance that was intolerant of the Lenape people, whose land the city now occupies. The complexity of New York constantly reminds me that every place is complex. One of you said to me in your studio one day, "Artists are people who have chosen not to have answers." I agree. You did not mean this in the way that artists have no responsibilities. You meant that artists accept and approach complexity in a particular way. Artists deliberately choose to work with a measure of ambiguity. We use uncertainty of meaning to generate a productive tension that forces us and others to confront issues and ideas by asking questions. The civil rights activist Bayard Rustin called it creative trouble. This is one reason that art cannot be taught in the way that we may think of teaching in other fields. I have frequently asked you what it is that you do when you study to make art. What is being taught? What is being learned? What takes place? Where does this happen? Art cannot be taught because it is not quantitative. There are no protocols. The undecidability of art makes talking about it irrational. And that is the goal. That's what makes art critical. Learning to make art means learning to think. We learn that by learning how to learn and using what you already know, how you can add to that. Observing, doing, comparing, a practice of translation. Teaching art means making a space where all of this becomes inevitable. Every work of art, no matter what the subject or medium, contains a proposition. It asks, what if the world was like this? Or, what if this is true? Artists and spectator trade places around the work. We each compare what is real to us, what we believe, with what we see. We identify ways we overlap and our differences. We come to terms with what we see, literally, finding words. Lately, we have been asking the question, Can art bring about change? Perhaps we found that this is the wrong question. Not because the question is idealistic, but instead because everything is always changing, with or without us. What becomes crucial is how we meet that change and how we take responsibility for ourselves. The space that art makes requires the imagination to go to work. This is something that politics has in common with art. Both rely on the labor of imagination to see things that do not exist, or maybe, more importantly, to see things as they are. For 30 years, roughly from 1982 to 2012, I did not ride on any carousels. This was not a decision. I was not aware that I had stopped riding on carousels. I came across them from time to time, most often in winter months when they were closed. Every time I saw Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, I delighted in that frenzied energy of the carousel that goes berserk near the end of that story. But in 2012, when my partner and I adopted her first cousin, twice removed, who was then 14 months old, I found myself riding on carousels again. I started to see the attraction in two different ways. My newly adopted son had a fascination with the velocity that for him happily verged on terror. Alternately, I experienced a well-worn cliché in a new physical form, being part of something larger than myself, as Maureen mentioned a few minutes ago. I felt this through my new connection to a very young child, but also as a metaphor in the realm of play, not a car or an airplane, but a child's amusement ride. Merry-go-rounds and carousels are based on equestrian tournaments, mechanical versions of the jousting match. Whoever rides a carousel becomes a sparring knight, rushing past other knights and riderless horses in a tight circle of competition. It's a reminder that what larger thing you choose to be a part of is a big decision. You've been on a journey these last years. Journeys are different from traveling, different from going one place to another. To quote James Baldwin again, a journey is called that because you cannot know what you will discover on the journey, what you will do with what you find, or what you find will do to you. When I met you that first day before school started, we began a conversation that I hope will continue far into the future. I can't tell you how much I look forward to being your colleague now, as you leave school and embark on your careers. I cannot wait to discover with you what art can be and do in our time. Making art is what makes a person an artist, and so I hope, for as long as you wish, you will remain artists in the city of New York. Thank you. And now I'm very, very happy to introduce the Visual Arts Program Director of Academic Administration, Carrie Gundersdorf.
Mikal Alpern. Dana Buell. Lucy Lord Campana. Andrew Cannon. Danielle Dobkin. Nash Glenn. Margaret Gladstone. Ashley Greer. Allison Janae Hamilton. Taylor Ashby Hawkins. D. Juan. Iris Erie Hu. Junte TJ Juan. Junsun Kim. Joan Kim Atcham. Peter LeBeer. Trying to go slow. Alex McTagg. Geronimo Mercado. Cy Morgan. Rocio Olivares. Jenna Basso Pietrobon. Just trying to please myself. Adam Liam Rose. Next. Emily Ludwig Schaffer. Lynn Spanky. Sarah Stern. Julia Tyrell. Dylan Vandenhoek. Kristen Walsh. Derek DeCario Laydell Whitson. Brian McGovern Wilson. Zoe Zhao. Jose Delgado Zuniga.
What a nice event this is turning into. Nice ceremony, I should say. Hello, graduates. I speak to you from a thicket. Hello, family and friends, distinguished guests, and dear committed colleagues. I'm Timothy Donnelly, current chair of the writing program, and once again, and for one last time in my tenure as chair, it is my honor to say a few words before welcoming this year's writing graduates to the Miller Theater stage and placing their diplomas in their mitts. Just to be clear, the word diploma comes from the Greek meaning folded in half or doubled over, while mitt, slang for the human hand, is an abbreviation of the word mitten, which is derived from the Old French mitaine, meaning half glove, which is itself derived from the vulgar Latin meditana, meaning divided
in the middle. So, in effect, I am here today to place something folded in half into something divided in the middle. Many times as there are graduates in the writing program. And when you put it like this, which is to say in more or less abstract terms, the moment might not seem like much. It is as if you were to view it from a great distance, from a remove, as, for example, from a very high altitude, or from what we sometimes call a God's eye view. But here on earth, here among us people, and most especially in this theater, completed in the year 1919 as the Macmillan Theater and renovated in 1988 into the Catherine Batchy Miller Theater we now know it to be, we recognize the moment at hand as momentous, a word we've heard today, and a word whose earliest known appearance in the English language dates back to the year 1652 in the pages of the quite nearly forgotten political treatise Nature's Dowry, or The People's Native Liberty Asserted. This pamphlet, which I have only encountered on my screen and never firsthand, was published by the bookshop known at the time as At the Sign of the Unicorn, located somewhere along the winding path of Paternoster Row near St. Paul's in the beautiful world capital of London. Its author went by the initials L.S. Scholars believe him to have been one Lazarus Seaman, which would be thrilling, were it true, but for no obvious reason. And in this pamphlet, written in Puritan fervor, he claimed that, quote, "a king is not a necessary ingredient of the government of a state." Charles I had been tried for treason and duly beheaded, and with it, the monarchy was abolished a full 3 years prior. So LS wasn't exactly sticking his neck out, which is to say, risking incurring criticism or anger by acting or speaking boldly. In time, in the wake of Cromwell's death and the collapse of his protectorate in 1660, Charles II would reclaim the throne, and a century later, in the year 1754, King George II would found, by royal charter, King's College, as we have been told, the institution that would gradually but directly evolve into the Columbia University we know and love today. This royal charter was signed, as it happens, on Halloween. I tried my best to find a decent image of it to project before you, but the only one I could locate was small and blurry, and the calligraphy was so zigzaggy that I thought I should just read it aloud to you in its entirety instead. So here goes. George II, by the grace of God, of United Kingdom of Great Britain, just kidding, I'm not actually going to read the royal charter that begat our university to you. That would take too long and veer us too far from the point. What matters most is what the charter led to, which is today, right here, the very moment at hand, one which we know to be momentous, a moment we know to be preceded by a history, or as many histories as there are graduates among us. Torrents of human sweat and miles of human pacing, countless foot candles of late-night illumination went into earning these degrees. Here, in the darkness of this theater, we can sense, if we're bold enough, if we stick our necks out, all the hours of reading, of writing, and of revising, all the false starts, the self-doubt, the sudden flares of confidence, the longed-for breakthroughs, the fleeting euphoria, and, too, the merely measured bliss of finding your place, finding your pace, and keeping it. Here's to that. Here's to measured bliss. However, if not of the charter, there will be images today, and they will be projected, so to speak, on this screen from the Old High German Skirm, meaning cover, shield, protection. There will be images, even though as a writer, the medium I feel most at home in, or most at home at not being quite at home in, has always been language, the English one to be exact, the mother tongue of selfish, treasonous Charles, and of courageous, more or less okay George, and even of nasty, brutish Cromwell. Even though, as a poet, the acoustic character of words appeal to the senses and their various associative properties, have always been of sizable and at times even primary interest to me. That's what makes a poet rather than some other kind of thing. But when preparing to address an audience like the one assembled here today, similar in the aggregate to last year's audience and the one the year before, but exuberantly distinct in all its particulars, and thank you very much, I have always worried deeply, rightly or wrongly, about the potential for language to fall short of its stated goal, a worry compounded by my own poet's brain's commitment to malfunctioning as far as the rest of the world is concerned, so much so that to invite the possibility of some other mechanical malfunction, which is to say another way to fail, had until very recently always seemed too risky a proposition to consider. So, when first asked 2 years ago if I had any needs of the audio-visual variety, knowing I would be sharing the stage with my brilliant colleagues who work not only in the language we share, but also with other materials as well, including vivid images designed to dazzle, subdue, and/or excite, I felt a wave of what I referred to at the time as medium envy, an extra-large medium envy at that. So, before I could give it too much thought, which is what I tend to give everything, I responded to my colleague Christina Rumpf, genius of communications and design, and magnificent launcher of websites. Yes, Christina, yes, I said, I would in fact have audiovisual needs. Thank you very much. That was 2 years ago, although by now I'm a total novice, whereas back then I was an absolute beginner. Panic soon set in. Now I had to find some image and commit to it. I had to head down a path, again winding, from which there would be no turning back. The die had been cast, to paraphrase Julius Caesar, on crossing the Rubicon River in northern Italy. Alia jacta est, he said, on January 10th, 49 BCE. To put an end to it all, but at the very last moment, which has always been my style coming from the Latin stylus, as in the writing instrument, first used to refer to a characteristic rhetorical mode, and then by extension to modes of dress, conduct, way of life, etc. What I did in my panic was select an image more or less arbitrarily, letting my intuition do the choosing, as a poet often does, and what I ended up sending to Christina was a link to an image I have been carrying around with me for close to a decade and a half. It is an image I trust you will find as helpful in your futures as I have found in my past, and here it is. Yeah. I first encountered this image in a squat 2.7-pound anthology called Alchemy and Mysticism, edited by Alexander Rube and published by Taschen Books in the year 1997. Note to any publishers out there, if you call a book Alchemy and Mysticism, chances are every poet in America won't be able to resist buying it, even if it means eating ramen for a week. But before I had any clue to what this image depicted, or who on earth had made it, and when it was made, or where, or for what purpose, the image had a power over me. The complex play of all the interlacing diagonal lines, there are 81 of them, I've done the math for you, and all the repeated shapes they make between them produced in me the same sensation, a sort of delectable trance that somehow also stimulates, excites, and subdues that the suspension cables of the Brooklyn Bridge do, at least when seen from certain vantages. The lines in the picture, which I had come to suspect must be some kind of ancient chart, connect each of the 9 words in Latin in the left margin to 9 additional Latin words in the right, with every possible combination rendered visible. It seemed to me serenely balanced and intrinsically beautiful on the one hand, but on the other, almost anxiously Baroque with its exhaustive systematics. In other words, I was in awe and at home. And then I turned to the caption to see what I was in awe of, and the caption read, "The universal diagram for the formation of questions regarding every possible proposition." That's right. Here it was at last, the universal diagram for the formation of questions regarding every possible proposition. Whatever you need to know, whatever can be known, has its origin right there. And then I dug a little deeper. I found out that the diagram was the work of an unstoppable Jesuit polymath named Athanasius Kircher. Kircher was born in 1601, just outside the city of Fulda, not far from the geographical heart of today's Germany. And his many beautiful illustrated books on Egyptology, magnetism, acoustics, the Kabbalah, numerology, volcanology, and an array of other subjects document and celebrate the world's wild variety, its intricate convolution of matter and spirit, sparing no detail as they seek to reveal how all of creation is, in fact, bound by secret knots. To give you a sense of the kind of work he did, in his Tourist Babel, a treatise on linguistics by way of a compendium of pre-classical architecture, Kierkegaard crunches all kinds of numbers in order to demonstrate just how ill-conceived an idea the Tower of Babel actually was, concluding that Nimrod's plan for a structure that would soar into the heavens would have required no fewer than 374 quintillion, 731 quadrillion, 250 trillion bricks to accomplish, and moreover, that the weight of all these bricks, presumably of sun-baked mud, would be greater than the weight of the Earth itself. It needed more matter than the planet could supply. So you see how it would have been, not only an impossibility, but a big logistical problem. That first year, I let this image appear throughout the entirety of my talk. At the time, I liked the simplicity of that. I thought it would be best to wade into the audiovisual pond slowly. But last year, drunk on the first year's achievements, I really let it rip. I thought, for example, that the audience might like to see what the great Kierkegaard himself looked like. Here he is in a cap, and what I like to think of as his bathrobe. Notice how he gazes determinedly to his right, reluctant to look directly at the viewer, or quite possibly incapable of doing so. I take this to be a sign of modesty or awkwardness, so in sympathy I'll move with almost alarming quickness to the next slide, which is a later artist's rendering of one of Kierkegaard's more intriguing, if controversial, gifts to the world. Wait for it, boom, the cat piano. The cat piano, or Katzenklavier in German, according to Wikipedia, is a conjectural musical instrument, presumably there are others, consisting of a line of cats fixed in place with their tails stretched out underneath a keyboard so that they cry out in pain when a key is pressed. The cats would be arranged according to the natural tone of their voices. Once again, I thank Professor List Harris, I see you back there, for inadvertently assuring me that this would be of general interest. Even if, to quote the website Mental Floss, the invention is imperfect. That's terrible, right? In his recent biography of Kierkegaard, A Man of Misconceptions, author John Glassy writes that many of Kierkegaard's actual ideas today seem wildly off base, if not simply bizarre, but at the same time, he was a champion of wonder, a man of awe-inspiring erudition and inventiveness, which brings me back to the diagram. It first appeared in Kierkegaard's Ars Magna Sciendi, The Great Art of Knowing, published in 1669, and you can see how in its tracing of every possible combination of the 9 Latin interrogatives in the left, who, what, where, why, when, how many, what kind, etc., with each of Kierkegaard's 9 descending categories of object on the right, from God, angels, and the heavens, all the way down to humans, animals, plants, and minerals, Kierkegaard is attempting to provide a framework whereby knowledge might be systematically produced. This probably seems out of whack or of little use to most of us humans today, yet the powerful human need to know, and with it the need to make, which is what this diagram to me seems to be a kind of monument to, are hardwired deep, deep in the human brain. And they keep us alive, and they keep us safe, and they keep us happy, and they keep us making things, and they aren't going anywhere. You, however, dear graduates, are. You are going somewhere. You've spent the last 2 years or so of your life getting ready to go, preparing for the rest of your lives as artists. I trust that each of you has already made, as a student, work that you will always have reason to be proud of, and work that was necessary. I'm sure you have all had many fine achievements and unforgettable learning experiences while a student here at the School of the Arts. But what you've really been doing while here is training for what comes next, preparing for what lies ahead and what is yet to be. I can stop pretending now that I think of Kierkegaard's universal diagram for the formation of questions regarding every possible proposition will be of all that much help to you as you plow forward into uncertainty, into discovery, unless inquiries like what kind of minerals and why God prove as crucial to your journey as I wish they had to mine. But even then, remember, the diagram doesn't aim to provide us with answers, but to tell us what and how to ask as we face the unknown. The unknown. There was a time back before creation, if what preceded creation can be thought to have existed in time, or to have existed at all in the good, solid English sense. I say there was a time when there was nothing to know, or nothing to know but nothing. 17th century British astrologer, mathematician, cosmologist, Kabbalist, and Rosicrucian apologist Robert Flood, known in science's Latin-loving communities as Robertus Fluctibus, supposed that this hard-to-fathom period of pure nothingness might have looked like this: a black void. Notice how in each of the image's four margins it is written et sic infinitum, and so on to infinity. Art historians among us might detect a resemblance between this 1617 image and Russian suprematist Kazimir Malevich's famous black square on white ground. Let's take a look. Very similar. Executed in 1915, Malevich's painting is often held to be the first painting that wasn't a painting of something. In a pamphlet to accompany its first exhibition, Malevich claimed that up until now, there were no attempts at painting as such without any attribute in real life. Painting was the aesthetic side of a thing, but never was original and an end in itself. Later, he would write, trying desperately to free art from the dead weight of the real world, I took refuge in the form of the square. Speaking of the weight of the real world, I thought you might like to take a look at Kircher's enchanting 1679 diagram of what he proved to be the impossible Tower of Babel. There it is. This is what he imagined it might look like, spiraling upward in all its ludicrous glory, the apex of it piercing through the sublunary realm to attain the longed-for heavens, which custom tell us commence with the moon. A number of armchair paleo architects, myself included, like to think that the Tower of Babel was designed according to the famous Fibonacci sequence, which you now see before you, and about which often the less said the better. But as you probably already know, the Fibonacci sequence appears to explain just about everything, from the building of storm clouds and intricate nautilus shells all the way down to amoeba reproduction and humankind's classical concepts of beauty. The Fibonacci sequence also appears to have an ongoing hand in the shaping of sunflowers, human embryos, and even the humble pine cone, traditional symbol of enlightenment, in part because it is itself sensitive to the effects of light, literal light, just like our own pineal gland, with which it shares not only a name, but also a shape. Located at the center of our brain, the pineal gland produces melatonin, which controls our sleep patterns and is in many belief systems equated with the third eye and pointed to as the ingress of spiritual vision. Moreover, it was thought by French philosopher René Descartes to be the, and I quote, principal seat of the soul, and the place in which all our thoughts are formed. There it is. There's an illustration of the pineal gland being fed some literal light through the eye. In humans, the pineal gland is approximately the size of a single grain of rice. As for what the moon toward which the tower tried to tower might look like, by which I mean the surface of it, we humans have had to wait almost all of our 200,000 years of existence to find out. Even as late as 1963, 3 years prior to our first photographs taken on the moon, we thought it might look like this. This is what Czech illustrator Ludek Pesek supposed our natural satellite's topography might resemble, all deep ravines and craggy peaks frosted in space dust. We know now that this simply isn't the case. Billions of years of being pelted by asteroids have, to put it mildly, smoothed the lunar surface out. Notice on the left, floating out there on the horizon, above it, lonely in an ocean of black, looking like a jawbreaker about half an hour in, the pale blue Earth, which we have always known up close, of course, but had in 1963 yet to take in from such a distance, or from what we sometimes call a God's eye view. And we were wrong about how the Earth looked, too, but we never stopped asking ourselves, what does it look like? How does it feel? What kind of minerals? Why God? What I ask of you is this, that you will be willing to take artistic risks, risk a little failure, risk malfunction, stick your neck out, risk incurring anger or criticism. You'll either grow or you'll recover. Risk, like Kircher, seeming wildly off base, if not simply bizarre. Trust the intuition you have been developing, and let its nemesis and good friend, its frenemy, the intellect, catch up from time to time. In other words, keep making art the way Kierkegaard did, art that champions wonder, art that marvels at the world, at least a little, even if it has in mind also how terrible and sad the world can often be, which is, again, to put it mildly. And when you feel like you don't have any answers or when you don't know what to know, remember you can still make something lasting and something beautiful out of showing us what and how to ask. In conclusion, I thought you might appreciate a glimpse of the moon's surface as it actually appears, what with all that awful hammering out. So simple, so desolate, and here, quite unlike our illustrator's pale dishwater rendering of it, here is our beautiful, vivid Earth. Yeah, this is where we find ourselves. This is where we make and do and ask. Manhattan sits at 2 o'clock sharp if you think of the Earth as a clock face, or at 40 degrees north, 74 degrees west if you want exacter coordinates. If there was ever a time when, speaking from a lectern to a room full of graduates and loved ones, looking at a picture of our miraculous, endangered world, a person might have felt inclined to say, meaning to be rousing, as the occasion might demand, "Here, friends, is the world. Now go out and conquer it," or even, "This is your oyster," then this isn't that time. Not exactly, nor am I that person. What I will say to you is, with your art, with what you make and do and ask, with what you dream and what you risk, please protect this planet. Please make this world, the only one we'll ever have, a better place. Congratulations to you all, and thank you for the work you've done and have yet to do. Thank you. I would now like to introduce the Writing Program's Director of Academic Administration, William Wadsworth, who will read the names of the 2017 MFA graduates in writing.
Janessa Abrams. Afia Atakora. Adrienne Bonilla. Zoe Bresney. Jessica Sensen Enriquez. Christy DiLallo. Christopher Donnelly. Naomi Falk. Shani Fu. Emma Gase. Allison Giannotti. Megan Gilligan. Phoenix Glass Destruge. Mina Hamedi. Saskia Heller-Pelnat. Bob Henderson. Claire Hodgdon. Carolyn Jack. Sarah Jackman. Lillian Catherine Klein. Joseph Vanderhoop Lee. Erica Luckert. Sarah Joy Marquez. Andrew Miller. Mary Jean Murphy. Nathan Javier Osorio. Gabrielle Ashley Otero. Nahid Feroz Patel. Ian Port. Abigail Rosewood. Miriam Raouf. Casey Samolsky. Rosemary Santarelli. Jihan Chaharawi. Siobhan Southern. Samuel Stokes. McLean Swanson. Christina Tate. Geetha Tewari. Aziza Ticha Kavunda. Andrew Waldron. Kathleen Walsh. Supipi Warasuia. Maria Jesus Ceballos. Natalie Zhao. And now I would like to ask Timothy to come back to the lectern and say a few words.
It is now my sad honor to bestow the degree on Amelia Blanquera, who passed away earlier this year. A deeply gifted and principled writer, brilliant lawyer, and passionate advocate for the marginalized and fighter for justice of every kind, the outpouring of grief and shared sense of loss that has followed Amelia's death has been tremendously powerful and defining these past few months. Amelia had a profound impact on our community, and its effect and her spirit will be felt for a long time to come. I'd like to give thanks to Professor Philip Lopate for assembling Amelia's thesis, and on behalf of the writing program and of the School of the Arts, my continued condolences to her family and loved ones. I now invite Amelia's sister, Ardell Jala, to accept the diploma on Amelia's behalf.
Will the graduates please rise? Having completed the requirements for the Masters of Fine Arts or Master of Arts, I now confer on you these degrees with all the rights and privileges thereto attached. Congratulations. We now invite you all to a celebration on our terrace with a fabulous band, the Rusty Guns. Congratulations again.
It's a celebration.